Hello everyone, welcome to Statecraft IS Academy. We have started a new initiative called the Daily Current Affairs Discussion, and this is the 8th video of that series. PDF of this video is available on the Statecraft Telegram channel, Statecraft website, as well as on the description box of this video. So let's get started with the current affairs. Our first topic of discussion is Deep Coven. So it is an indigenously developed antibody detection kit. It has been developed by DRDO in association with Vanguard Diagnostic Private Limited. It can detect both spikes as well as nucleocapsid protein of SARS-CoV-2 virus. It has a high sensitivity of 97% and specificity of 99%. So here, what is the difference between a sensitivity and specificity? So sensitivity is actually the ability to identify people with the disease, whereas specificity means the ability to identify people without the disease. Next is antibody. So it is also called immunoglobulin. It is a protective protein produced by the immune system. So it has been produced by the immune system in response to a presence of a foreign substance, which is generally known as an antigen. These antibodies recognize and attack these antigens in order to remove them from the body. Next, we'll talk about Galwan Valley. So it is located in the Ladakh in the west, and it is located between Ladakh in the west and Aksai Chin in the east. Aksai Chin is currently controlled by China. And at the western end, there is a Shyok River and Daulat Beg Oldi Road, which was also in news recently. The Galwan River flows from the disputed Aksai Chin region, which is administered by China, to the Ladakh region of India. It originates near Karakoram Range and flows west to join the Shyok River. Here we can see the map of Galwan Valley. It is between Aksai Chin and Ladakh, and above it there is a Siachen Glacier as well. Next, we'll discuss about digital border. So, Britain is actually planning to announce a fully digital border. So, this is a part of the country's immigration system. So, it's important to note that this digital border is related to the immigration system of a country, that is UK. And it also includes the introduction of a point-based migration system. So, this move means that the people coming without a visa or immigration status will need a electronic travel authorization, which is similar to what is used in US. The digital identity checks will actually reduce the need to visit visa application centers, and digitizing these borders will help officials to keep a count on who is coming in and out of the country and whether they have a permission to be there or not. And it will also make it easier to identify the potential threats before they reach the these threats reach the border. Actually, what happened is last year, roughly around 8,500 people arrived in Britain, and they made this entry through a very risky crossing across the channel, one of the busiest shipping lanes in small boats. So, digitizing the borders will actually help them to keep a check on people who's coming illegally to the country. Next, we'll talk about the Casanur forest disease. So, a new point of care test has been found to be highly sensitive in the rapid diagnosis of the Casanur forest disease. This point of care test is being developed by the Indian Council of Medical Research, that is ICMR, National Institute of Virology. Talking about the features of the test, it includes a battery-operated polymerase chain reaction analyzer. So it is portable, lightweight, and universal cartridge-based pre-treatment kit. And it is a nucleic acid extraction device that aid in sample processing at the point of care. The benefits of it are that it is beneficial for the diagnosis of the disease because as the disease usually takes place in the remote areas. The outbreak mainly happens in the remote areas where there is lack of well-equipped sample handling and laboratory testing facilities. It is beneficial for diagnosis in remote areas, and also it will be helpful in quick patient management and controlling the further spread of the virus. Next, talking about the disease, it is also called monkey fever and it is caused by Cassinour forest disease virus. So it is being caused by a virus and it primarily affects humans and monkeys. It was first identified in 1957 in a sick monkey from the Cassinour forest in Karnataka, and since then around 400 to 500 human cases have been reported every year. This disease has become a grave public health problem, spreading throughout the entire Western Ghats. So the virus is mainly in hard ticks, monkeys and rodents and birds. To humans, it may occur after a tick bite or a contact with an infected animal, a sick or a recently dead monkey. The symptoms include chills, frontal headache, body ache, high fever for 5 to 12 days, and the fatality rate in this is around 3 to 5%. And also, there is no specific treatment for monkey fever as of now. Next, we'll talk about cyclone Yas. So, it is likely to intensify into a very severe cyclonic storm and cross the Odisha and West Bengal coast on May 26. As per the Indian Meteorological Department, low pressure area has been formed in the eastern central Bay of Bengal and the adjoining North Andaman Sea. This Yas, it's a cyclonic storm and it is expected to hit the coast of Odisha and West Bengal. And it has been named by Oman. So Yas generally refers to a tree that has a good fragrance. Earlier we also heard about cyclone Taukte, which was named by Myanmar and it meant gecko, a highly vocal lizard. So now that we have seen the names of the two recent occurrence of the cyclones, we'll know how the naming of cyclones takes place. So World Meteorological Organization and United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific actually jointly established a panel on tropical cyclones in 1972 as an intergovernmental body. The panel is one of the 5 regional tropical cyclone bodies which established as a part of the WMO's Tropical Cyclone Program, and it aimed at promoting and coordinating the planning and implementation measure to mitigate the tropical cyclone disasters. So in 2000, a group of nations called the WMO and ESCAP decided to start naming cyclones in the region. So its membership countries include the countries which are affected by the tropical cyclones in the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea. These countries include Bangladesh, India, Maldives, Myanmar, Oman, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Thailand. So these countries are required to give suggestions, name suggestions, and after each country sends its suggestions, the panel on tropical cyclones finalizes the list. Recently, a list of 169 cyclone names were released by Indian Meteorological Department in April 2020. The panel actually has been expanded and it has included 5 more countries in 2018. It has included Iran, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE and Yemen. Also, there are certain guidelines to adopt the names of the cyclones. The proposed name should be neutral to politics and political figures, religious beliefs, cultures and gender. And the name should be chosen in such a way that it does not hurt the sentiment of any group. And it should not be rude or cruel in nature. Should be short and easy to pronounce. And the maximum limit of the name should be 8 letters. And the name should be new. It should not be a name which has already been in existence. About the benefits of naming cyclone, it becomes easier to identify individual cyclones and create awareness, and also rapid dissemination of warnings to increase the community preparedness actually, and also removing the confusion when there are multiple cyclones taking place in a region. Talking about tropical cyclones, it is an intense circular storm that originates over a warm tropical ocean, and it is characterized by low atmospheric pressure. Mind it, the atmospheric pressure is low in this case. There's high winds and heavy rain. And the characteristic features of cyclone includes a central region of clear skies, a warm temperature, and a low atmospheric pressure. So these storms, the storms of these type are called hurricanes in the North Atlantic and Eastern Pacific region, typhoons in the Southeast Asia and China region, tropical cyclones in the Southwest Pacific and Indian Ocean region. These tropical cyclones originate near the equator and gain their energy from the heat that is released when the water vapor condenses into rain. And in the southern hemisphere, as we can see in the picture, in the southern hemisphere, the storms rotate in a clockwise manner, and in the northern hemisphere, it rotates in a anti-clockwise manner. Talking about the formation of the cyclones, so it is generally formed in the tropical region as the sunlight is the highest in this region, and it results in warming of land and water surface. After the ocean surface has been warmed, the warm moist air over the ocean rises upward, and this lets the cool air rush into it to fill the void. This cool air also becomes warm and rise above, and this is how the cycle continues. We have seen in the picture also the cyclone actually has a spin. So what is the reason behind the spin? We all know that the wind blows from a high pressure area to a low pressure area. So high pressures areas are generally the cold region, and low pressure areas are generally the warm regions. And in case of the earth, the polar regions are high pressure areas, and as the amount of sunlight is less than the tropical region, so the wind blows from the polar regions to the tropical regions. And also the earth's movement is from west to east. The earth rotation on its axis actually causes a deflection of the wind in the tropical region, as the speed of spinning of the earth is higher compared to the the speed of spinning of the earth is higher in case of tropical regions, and it is less in case of polar sides, due to the spherical shape of the earth. So wind coming from the Arctic is deflected to the right, while Antarctic wind deflects to the left side. So wind is already blowing in a direction, but when it reaches the warm places, the cool air starts getting attracted to the center to fill the gap. So while moving to the center, the cool air keeps getting deflected also. They are deflected, resulting in a circulation of the wind, and that is when the spinning happens. This cool air it gets deflected, which results in a circulation of the wind movement, and this process continues until the cyclone hits the land. So the cyclone dissipates or stops only when it hits the land, as the warm water that rises and creates that used to rise and create the space for the cool water is no longer available on the land. Next, we see a mechanism of the tropical cyclone, and as explained before, there's a low pressure area created in the ocean floor. Wait a second. Yeah, a low pressure area is created in the ocean floor, and this leads the warm air to rise above, and the cool air does come in to fill the gap. In the middle, there is an eye. So this eye is a roughly circular area which comparatively has light winds, clear skies, and a fair weather, and there's little or no precipitation. Sometimes blue sky and stars can be seen in this area. This area has the lowest surface pressure and the warmest temperature. This eye area can range from 8 kilometers to over 200 kilometers. And this is a cyclone which is moving on a clockwise direction. So we can tell that the cyclone is happening in the region in the northern hemisphere. Go through the tropical cyclone and other topics related to it. All for today now. If you like the video, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.